Welcome to our podcast where we look for opportunities in our lives to see a beautiful view. I'm Candy.
And I'm Paul. We want to give a big shout out to our newest patrons, Chris and Jonah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you're unfamiliar with Patreon, it's simply a way that you can show your appreciation and support for the time and efforts we put into bringing you this podcast every 2 weeks. If you would like to support our efforts on a monthly basis, you too can become a member for only $5 a month.
And as a member, we will send you a beautiful view sticker.
Yes.
You'll get a shout out on the show.
Yep.
Receive an encouraging weekly newsletter, and from time to time, we provide our members with exclusive content.
Yes, we do. We look forward to sharing with you today, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the beautiful view.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. Oh, I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere as long as you're going to. Well, I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you.
Hello, we are recording this episode today from a Corps of Engineers campground just south of Fort Worth, Texas.
Yes.
It's called Bear Creek Campground,
It
and
is.
it sits on Benbrook Lake.
Yes.
We're doing a little tour of Texas this week, visiting some of our Texas clients. And you have been all the way to Iowa and back to Texas since we recorded our last episode.
I have done a lot of miles.
You have.
A lot.
A lot.
Yes, and so I went back to experience just, like warm days, cool evenings, cool nights. And then now we're back in Texas. Oh, I'm back in Texas. And so
it's just hot all the time.
It's hot all the time. So apologies again. We've got all of the ACs running in the RV here just to keep cool. So if you hear any background noise,
have
well,
the window
we
open
have
here. The blinds are open
background view.
because it's kind of almost nighttime and
Yeah.
there's no sun.
No, and it's beautiful. And I'm sure as the podcast goes on, it will get darker and darker and
Probably.
darker. And then there'll be like raccoons and the wildlife
so
looking in the window.
we have to get this in the first take tonight. That's
Yeah,
what
we
that
do.
means. Okay.
It has to be done.
Yeah.
So yes, I've
Okay.
been back to Iowa.
Yes.
And now we're back here and touring around. And it's
What did you do when you were in Iowa?
well, our primary reason for going back to Iowa was so that Tyler could go to scout camp.
Yes.
And so we did happen to sort of like push the first date we got there to include Heritage Days and the fireworks and all that kind of
All
stuff.
that,
So I
yeah.
got to sit with Emily and we watched the fireworks down there on the river, and that was just a wonderful time, really cool. And then scout camp.
Yeah.
Tyler's nickname at scout camp was Sparky. Sparky.
He is pretty sparky.
He is Sparky. I mean, he is the life and soul of the party. So every event that they were in, he was the biggest cheerleader. He didn't have a voice left by the time we got to the end of it. But we had a really good time. We had 10 scouts in our troop, a whole ton of scouts overall. So
Awesome.
it was a great time.
Awesome. So you've done a lot of driving.
Yes.
Driving to, driving from.
Yes. So on the way back down here, I called you and I said, I think I'm making it to my intended stop way too quickly.
Yeah. Which I might have suggested that about a week before that.
I can neither confirm nor deny that. And so I was like, could you find me something that's probably about 2.5 hours from here? I think I'll just carry on driving. And so you were like, sure. So you kind of,
The All Stays app.
you went to the All Stays app, which kicked back a result of a little campground outside the little town of Gridley in Kansas that is in the middle of nowhere.
I did warn you it was off the beaten path.
Off the beaten path, and sometimes that might not be good, but in this case it was great. So got there, and this place is like the pride of the town of Gridley. Like everything is top notch, restrooms and shower facilities with hot and cold running water, There's a pond there with a duck feeder in the middle of the pond so that the Canadian geese can get fed twice a day.
And you were in a tent.
I was
You
in
had
a
the
tent. So I just threw a tent in the back of the truck and stopped there. And I'm talking about like, this is $5 a night. $5. And it was great. Fantastic place to stay. So that was a good stop on the way down.
I stayed here during all of that,
You did.
and I have been handling a lot of kind of the legal and financial logistical matters after my mom passed away.
Yeah.
My siblings and I have been cleaning and going through things in the house, trying to just kind of set it up as best as we can for my daddy going forward. We're really, really getting close to being able to head back to Iowa. In the meantime, we have a lot on the calendar, don't we?
Yes, we do have a lot on the calendar. So we're taking advantage of our time here in Texas. As we said, I'm doing a job at a local church not too far from here. So I'm doing some audio and video installation configuration work, some lighting. So I really enjoy doing that stuff, and so it's been fun to do that.
I've been hanging out here at in the RV, getting some other work done that's kind of been pushed off for a little bit with all the traveling and stuff. So I've been able to kind of pick up some of that stuff
Good
and
to
get
get
some
that
stuff
stuff
done.
caught up. Yeah.
And then once we kind of finish this trip and we get back to San Angelo, we are taking a big family vacation to the coast for a few days. So we're loading up my daddy, and we're meeting my siblings and their families down there for an extended weekend of fun in the sun.
That'll be great.
It will no doubt be a blast.
Yes. Today we have another fun episode planned for you. In the early days of our relationship, Candy traveled to England twice to visit me and see where I grew up, meet my family, and just experience the little green island of England. Yes.
It was a big adventure.
It was.
This should be a really fun little walk down memory lane.
Yes. So, your trip to England.
Oh, yeah.
And you have been to England how many times now?
I have been twice to England.
Twice to England, yes.
Both of those were previous to us getting married.
Yes. And so this is going to be questions about your first trip to England, where you had those all-important first impressions.
Okay.
So I have a list of questions I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
And we're going to see where this goes, okay?
Okay. Should be interesting.
So before you went to England, did you have anything you thought you might like to do or see? Like any sort of pictures in your head of things you'd seen about England, you're like, I wish I could do that.
Well, my initial thought was you.
Oh, well, that's nice. But aside from me.
Aside from you, I guess like castles and London and all the things that you kind of think of when you think of, I don't guess I really knew what to expect. You see pictures online or of course back then, that was pre was Google even a thing back then?
Well, no, the interwebs was a thing, but
it was,
every image was like sort of this big and grainy, so you had to kind of,
it's not like it is today.
No,
so,
no.
I'd open up an encyclopedia or something.
Blow the dust off the pages.
Exactly. I don't really know that I really had any major expectations. I was really excited to go and see you. And I was excited to see where you were from and all of those kinds of things. So did you have this common misconception that most Americans have where they think that London Bridge is the bridge with the towers and I probably did.
You
but
did?
That's Tower Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. I learned that. See, I learned something new when I was there.
Good job. Yeah.
So
cool. So when you got to England, was there anything that you were not prepared for? Like something that caught you completely off guard, something you weren't expecting?
I think just how green it was.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up in West Texas where everything is just
Not
dirt.
green. Not green.
Dirt and pump jacks and not green and cactus and I had been out of Texas by that point a couple of times, and I had experienced places that were a lot greener than Texas. But England is just, it rains all the time.
All the time,
so,
which is one of the main drawbacks.
Yeah, so everything is super lush and green, and things grow. And
it's pretty green around here. Like we're more in sort of central Texas, so there are a few actual trees.
Yeah, another thing that kind of caught me off guard, being from Texas, you can always see wide open spaces.
Yes, big
in
skies.
Texas.
Yeah.
There's big skies. There are very few tall trees, so driving down any road in Texas, you can see for miles pretty much.
Miles.
In England, there were lots of roads that were lined with really tall trees. So
or hedges, yeah.
For a West Texas girl, like that was really claustrophobic.
Because you're trying to look to kind of get your bearings.
Your bearings, yeah. No, there's no looking. It's like, and the roads are really narrow, so
very narrow.
Where
I lived, very narrow.
Very, very narrow.
Yeah, like
I'm
vehicle.
Like, if a car comes the other way, are they going to hit us?
Well, see,
because I'm on the wrong side of the car.
Well, see, there's certain sort of like courtesies that you apply to those situations. Where you kind of know, like if you come face to face with another vehicle, of course you stop, right? But then it's kind of like which one of you. There's a sort of like a signaling that goes on between you over who's going to reverse to the next gateway that was that you passed into the nearest field behind you. So you reverse back and then you go up the grass bank next to the gate and let the other guy through. That stuff happens all the time. Now in Devon, the worst thing is when you come around a corner and there's a flock of sheep in the middle of the road.
I don't remember us coming up on that. I don't think we...
Not while you were there, but it happens.
I don't think I experienced that.
It happens.
I'm sure it does.
Next question. After you've been in England for a few days, did what you experienced around you with the people, the country, the culture, did that help you to understand me a little better?
I think so. What I knew of you at that point didn't really fit what I was seeing, though, because being the person that I am, from the culture that I'm from,
very different.
Very, very different. You walk past someone on the sidewalk you say hi, you greet each other, maybe have a little mini conversation. How are you today?
Sure.
In England, everyone walks around staring at their shoes.
Yeah.
That was really, because being who I am, I would still try to make eye contact with them and say hi to them, and I probably scared them to death, but that's okay.
And if you do say hi to someone, they will look at you like, do I know you? Like,
why are you talking to me? And I don't. You didn't come across that way, and maybe you were pretending for me. I don't know, but you didn't.
No, it's pretty much the way I was. I would often wade into the middle of situations I had no business being in the middle of, and get myself into all kinds of trouble.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
But when I moved to Texas, I fit in a little better.
Okay.
Because there's no way that I'm going to be like more forward or loud than my fellow Texans. No, that's not going to happen.
You're very reserved here.
Yes. When you think about the differences between life in Texas and life in England, at least what you got to see of it, what was one of your favorite things? Differences.
I think one of my favorite things was just how old everything is. I mean, here in the States, I mean, even if you go to, New England, like the oldest things are like the 1700s, unless you go back to like Native American days or something. But the structures and the buildings, these castles that were built in like 10 something, or buildings or houses with thatched roofs and all of that kind of stuff. That was probably my favorite kind of most eye-opening thing visiting over there. Just,
I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it is really. And being the kind of the history buff that I am, I love that kind of stuff. I love to see old things and learn about them. And
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, what was some of your least favorite things?
Probably just how much it rained and how gloomy it was. That was kind of, I mean, in Texas, it rarely rains.
Right.
I mean, at least in West Texas. And I was used to like sunshine all the time and having to wear a coat and raincoat in like August was really bizarre to me. But
Yeah, it's something that you.
It was fine. I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
I've always said that England is a great place to visit, and I would love to go back someday.
Sure.
I don't think I would want to live there.
No. It's something that even if you've grown up there and not really known anything else, the constant rain and cloudy days
Yeah.
gets to you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even for locals, it's kind of a big deal. You remember when we went down to Cornwall and we were trying to see all these sites down there and it just constantly rained. And in the end, we had to go, I was trying to remember the name of it. I think it was like Center Parks or something. And we went to that sort of like indoor gardens where they had those domes, the glass domes.
Yeah,
And then you went through, like they had different environments in every dome.
Rainforest and all of that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was cool. But that was about the only way to get away from the rain. Go inside.
Go inside to a fake environment.
Yeah, and then we go to the rainforest section, and it's like, I came in out of the rain to get away from the rain, and now I'm in the rainforest. What the heck? But we had some fun times.
We did. That's really cool.
Do you remember me taking you for a bike ride, Cornwall?
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. I don't think I had ridden a bike since I was about 12 years old at that point. And remember when I said earlier about the rolling hills and how beautiful they are? They're only beautiful until you have to ride a bike over them.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it wasn't fair, really. We got mountain.
No, it wasn't fair at all.
We got some mountain bikes. We rented these mountain bikes when we were there, and we took this trail, and it went all the way down to this beautiful town with a little harbor there and stuff. You remember that? It was
I
gorgeous.
do remember. It was gorgeous.
It was worth it. It was pretty.
I almost died, but I remember. Yeah.
I apologize.
Oh, I think you were kind of embarrassed at the time because you were realizing how...
I was having fun.
I know you were having fun. You were way up there and left me in the dark.
I was like hopping from side to side of the trail, and jumping over tree roots and that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at you and you're like...
I was dying.
And muttering words. I think they were American words. I didn't understand them. It's a different language. American words under your breath. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I wasn't very happy with you.
So speaking of things that you shouldn't say, was there anything that you quickly learned to say differently in England than your normal language? Anything that people were like looking at you like, what? What?
Well, when you're around people that are speaking very properly,
yes,
you tend to immediatally cut out all slang.
Yes, gone.
I mean, y'all is
No,
gone.
you're not going to say that.
Gonna.
Gonna, yeah,
You'll to.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that we say in Texas that don't even fly in Iowa. So I catch myself editing even
in
living
Iowa.
in Iowa.
Yeah.
Definitely in England.
Yeah.
Because especially being the outsider, like you don't want to necessarily stand out. And as soon as I opened my mouth, it didn't matter what I said. They'd be like, "Oh, are you from America?"
Yes.
Yes,
I am. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found myself editing on the fly, cutting out all that Texas slang along the way.
So I'm going to remind you of a few terms that you may have forgotten. Do you remember fizzy drinks?
Oh yes.
So that's a soda.
drinks,
Like
soda.
if you have a soda or a pop.
And the big one, we went to
fizzy
that
drinks.
amusement park, and there was candy floss. I got a sign under the candy floss sign, which
Candy
is cotton
floss.
candy in
I
America.
prefer candy floss. That's much
Candy
better.
floss sounds kind
And
of gross.
speaking of candy,
Yes.
candy over there is called, do you remember?
Sweets.
Sweets.
Yes.
Yes, and for little kids, it's sweeties.
A sweetie.
Sweeties.
And cookies and biscuits and I don't know. There's
It's a whole
chips and
bunch
crisps and
yeah.
there are a lot of different little things.
Yeah,
but-
and I think you mentioned last time about Dr. Pepper.
oh yeah.
You were not impressed.
Dr.
no.
Pepper was not impressive over there. I don't know what they did to it, but it was not Dr. Pepper.
And then the fizzy drinks,
Yes.
kind of limited.
Oh yeah. So if you go to like a McDonald's or something like that, like here in the US, we're used to you get your
Giant cup,
large whatever
massive.
that's that's like 64 ounces or
which should be
something
plenty
in some
for any
places.
Should be plenty.
And if you run out, you go up to the little machine and you get a refill.
Fill it back up again.
Well, in England, you get like a little cup
Tiny
and
little.
there's no ice.
No ice. No, you have to ask for
And
that, and then
you-
they give you a funny look.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't have it. So
McDonald's has ice.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
but you don't get free refills.
No, you have
like
to pay
if you
again.
drink that, that's
get
it.
to pay again.
You have to start over and
You
pay
get,
again.
you-
So
yeah, you get your little drink all over again,
yeah.
and you're like, could you line up 4 more
It
of those?
didn't really taste that great first time, so
What are some of the main differences between my everyday life in England and your everyday life in Texas?
well,
As far as the things that you have to do.
yeah, I think the biggest thing is how small everything is in England. Like your
Yes.
refrigerator is small, your washer and dryer is small, your
Yeah.
everything is small. We experienced a little bit of that living in the RV, having to kind of
Yeah.
like get groceries for like a week at a time. Where growing up, I was used to like you go to the grocery store and you buy enough for 2 weeks or
Yeah.
3 weeks or a month or whatever.
Right.
So you buy in bulk so that you have plenty.
Right.
Where in England, it's like you've got a little bitty refrigerator and a little bitty oven and a little bitty this and a little bitty that.
It really
and
is all RV size. So I think
It
I think
is.
our washer dryer that's in the RV here is about the size of a domestic
It is.
washing machine dryer in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed coming over to Texas was how big a stove was
oh, yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe how large.
Yeah.
And yet, like our stove here in the RV is about the size
About
of
the
a regular
size, yeah.
one, and it's funny how
It
that,
is funny,
that works
yeah.
out. But you had fun.
I did have a lot of
You
fun.
had a lot of fun.
One of my favorite things that we went and did and saw was St. Michael's Mount, where we,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a castle on a mountain.
A really old
A really
castle.
old castle, and you walk out there on dry land when the tide is out.
Yep.
And then
the causeway.
Yep. And then when we were ready to come back, the tide had come in, and we had to take
It
a
covered
boat
up
back.
the road. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was really neat.
Yeah, it had like a little church up there and everything, didn't it? It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
And then we also did. I wanted to see London,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't have a lot of time or money.
You
So-
don't need a lot of time or money when you go on my little
Yes,
tourist plan that
we,
I have.
We went on,
my
an
little tour.
excursion. We were
Yes.
we were car campers for a night. We did London in a day,
A long day.
a long day.
A long
but
day.
we got to see pretty much all the sights.
So the way that we do that is you find one of the furthest train stations out from the center of London, a reasonable distance away that you can catch the subway. So it's kind of like what we did in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And then you get an all-day travel pass for buses and trains. Although we didn't ever use buses because they're too slow. If you want to, you got to do London
We
in a day.
didn't have a lot of
You have to
time. We had
move.
to be snappy.
So you get that, and then you, we camped in the car at the train station, which I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do that. So
Probably
I
not.
don't advise
Probably might want to edit that out.
that. Yeah, and then we went into London, and then you just sort of like go from one underground station to another. and you kind of go up,
Hop out at each one of the sites and
go see Buckingham Palace, Tower of London, all the major sites, Houses of Parliament, Horse Guards Parade. We did all of those things.
Piccadilly Circus.
All
the things. So we when I was cleaning out at my parents' house this last week, I came across one of the little
video
cassette tape things,
big,
like
thick,
one of
chunky,
the small ones
Yeah.
from when I went over there. I hope we can get a hold of some of that footage. I don't know. It's probably not going to be for this episode because we don't have the playback tape
we
for
don't. If we had come across the camcorder that we took with us, or a tape adapter or something, we might have been able to stretch and do that, but we're kind of out of time now. So maybe at some future date that will surface.
Maybe so. We'll
and if
have
you
to
join
revisit.
us on Patreon,
there we go.
You will get to see that video at some point.
There we go. That's what we'll do.
If it's
because I'm pretty sure that playback tape is back in Iowa in our attic.
So we'll see.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll
that will
have to come
happen.
across that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it was just so much fun to get to see the country I grew up in through your eyes.
Yeah.
And to see how excited you were about everything, everything that we did.
Yeah.
It gave you some perspective when you see me dropped into the middle of West Texas with your family and friends and stuff. And you're like, oh, the poor
I would
guy.
love someday to take our kids over there.
It would be a great thing to do.
Yeah,
it really
show them
would.
where their daddy's from and where he grew up and stuff. I think that'd be super cool.
They are half British.
I know. I think when Emily was little, and I think Tyler wore it too, but we found this onesie somewhere that said 50% American plus 50% British equals 100% cute.
Which was true.
It was true. It was true.
And they are still cute.
They are.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe one day we'll get to do a trip like that. That would be really cool.
That would be great.
Yeah. I guess I've always had a little bit of an adventurous spirit. My little adventure across the Atlantic Ocean was right up my alley. It didn't hurt that my sweetheart was there waiting for me when I arrived. Talk about feeling like you're living in a dream.
Yeah, it was a pretty special experience to be able to show you where I'm from.
Honestly, the whole thing was an answer to prayer for me. Since I was a little girl, I had prayed for what I have today. A loving husband, precious children, and a beautiful life. But none of those things have come without lots of prayer and seeking God's will for my life.
Yes.
There have been many times when I have had to pray, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Sometimes we have our own plans that don't always line up with what the Lord has in store for us. When my mom first got her pancreatic cancer diagnosis, we began praying for a miracle. We actually begged for a miracle. You know what? We saw miracle after miracle. I think my sister Kelly said it best. She said, God is still in the business of making miracles happen. We just don't get to choose what those miracles look like.
There was someone else who prayed this prayer. In Luke 22, verse 42, Jesus is recorded praying this prayer as his path to the cross gets closer. Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will be done, but yours.
Not my will, but yours be done.
Yes.
I have prayed those words so many times in my life. Those are the words I also prayed as I boarded the plane to fly across the Atlantic to see you, to figure out all the things as we continued on the path the Lord had us on. Those were the words I prayed when we lost our baby girl, Lily. I've prayed them every time things didn't go as planned on our travels. I've prayed them when our finances were out of whack. I prayed them when my mama got sick.
We've prayed them when we have big decisions to make, like when we bought a house in Bellevue, Iowa, after being in an RV touring around the country for 6.5 years. When we place our lives in the perfect will of God, he will lead us and guide us down the path he has prepared for us. We don't have to worry or be anxious about tomorrow because we know who holds tomorrow.
Yeah, God never promised that if we believed in him or lived righteously that we would be completely trouble-free for the rest of our lives. What he promised is that he would be with us as we walk through each problem. We would not face our problems, hard times, or issues alone.
Psalms 139, verses 7 through 10 says this: I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you're there. If I ride on the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me, and your strength will support me.
And that is a beautiful thing.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today. So, what's in the works for the next episode?
Okay, so we mentioned earlier we're going to go on a big family vacation down to the Texas coast. And we're going to take our recording equipment with us.
Yes, we are.
When we go on that trip. This episode will be called Family Adventures.
Oh, like our Facebook Messenger group.
Yes.
Ah.
That Family Adventures Messenger group is how our family has shared our lives with each other for a really long time now.
Yep.
It's possible on that episode that we might even have a little tiny guest or two.
Or 3 or 4.
Or 3 or 4. It should be really
Curious
interesting.
kids.
Yeah, there's a few little nieces and nephews that might poke their noses in.
They probably will.
Yeah. That's okay. There are going to be 15 of us staying in a house that's supposed to sleep 10. It's going to be fine. Everything's fine. It's going to be a blast.
Be praying. I'm sure we will have much to share, and we'll also talk about some of the challenges living so far away from our extended family brings to us.
Yes. If you know of someone who would enjoy this podcast, please point them our direction. Visit us at Beautiful View Podcast on Facebook or Instagram. Share our post or share the link to our podcast. Also, you can watch a video recording of our most recent podcast on YouTube.
Yes.
The link to that is also in our show notes.
Also, we would really appreciate it if you would follow, subscribe to, or leave a review for us on either YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform. These things are completely free for you to do, but it really helps new people find the Beautiful View podcast.
Shout out to the Hopeful Few for the catchy theme song on our podcast. You can check out more of their music on Spotify or Apple Music. And they will be releasing more new music over the next couple of months. So be sure to keep an eye open for that. And the link to their stuff is also in our show notes.
Yes, they've been kind enough to give me some advanced listens of the new tracks coming up. And they're really, really good. If you have questions you would like us to answer or suggestions for things you would like us to talk about in our future podcasts, email us at beautifulviewpod@gmail.com.
And just a reminder, please consider joining the Beautiful View Patreon. This helps us keep the episodes coming and helps cover our costs.
Yes.
Memberships are only $5 a month. Again, thank you to our newest patrons, Chris and Jonah.
Thank you so
much.
much.
We really appreciate your support.
Yes.
The link to sign up is in our show notes, and it's also on our social media accounts.
We hope you have a great day, and remember to always keep an eye open for opportunities in life to see a beautiful view.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. Oh, I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere as long as you're going too. And I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you. Yeah, I'd go